everyone, Joshua Hanlon here, and today I'm with Alex Nunes, and we are in Salt Lake City checking out his incredible Lego City display here. So this thing is massive. It goes in all directions seemingly here, and there's so much to check out. So if you've watched his channel, then you'll be familiar with a lot of this stuff that we're going to check out, but we wanted to get the full tour from the man himself here. So why don't you kind of give us an overview of what we've got, maybe starting in this large section right here, and then we'll make our way through.
All right, let's see if we can do this. Let's see, we got the downtown area, which is probably my favorite area of the city. It's kind of the hub. It's a big L-shaped city, and so the downtown area is where you're going to see a lot of the modular buildings, and of course you have the skyscraper behind it with a lot of MOCs, various different sizes and shapes that really kind of create that downtown kind of vibe.
Yeah, and that's fantastic. One building that definitely stands out here is that red and yellow one over there. So if you can, tell us a little bit more about this building. I also love it. It's got some great Beyond the Brick colors going on there as well.
Doesn't it?
So maybe that's why it stands
Maybe it should be the Beyond the Brick building, right? So that's my torque tower. And you know, you have a lot of yellow bricks. What do you do with them, right? And so I built that based off of a video game gun manufacturer from Borderlands. I was like, you know what? Let's do that. It'll be my torque tower. It's got some very bright colors to it. So that is my second rendition of the torque tower. Definitely sticks out though, you're right.
That is so cool. I've been playing through the Borderlands series recently, actually,
nice.
Yes. So I love that little shout out there. And then what do we have to the right of that?
So that's the Mike's Tower. That used to be my Shmew Tower, but that graduated. So Mike is the name of my dad. So I always like to name buildings out of family members, kind of keep it intimate that way. So the Mike's Tower is kind of a shout out to the old man who bought me my first Lego set when I was 10 years old. So thanks, Dad.
There you go. You got to recognize the roots there a little bit.
Absolutely. You sure do.
And then is this the tallest building in the layout over in the corner there?
It's about as tall as you can get because it is literally scraping the ceiling right now. But that is the Shmew Tower. Shmew comes from a nickname from my younger brother when we were kids. So that's dedicated to him, who was a great artist and always drew pictures of towering buildings and skyscrapers. So that's my ode to him.
Yeah, and I should mention that we're shooting this video right as Brick Slopes, the Lego convention in Salt Lake City, has just wrapped up. And I know some of these buildings you had on display at the convention there as well, so that's really cool that you're able to kind of take some of these out, display them at the show, and then bring them back into the city as well.
Yeah, a little stressful weekend, but we made it work out. We got it all back into the city late last night. A little stressful, but we got it to work, so we're happy we have it back in place for you guys to be here.
And you've got the Avengers Tower there, and then I love that like apartment building next to it as well.
Yeah, the Avengers Tower was, I think, my first skyscraper. It was an opportunistic build where they had the Attack on Avengers Tower Lego set selling at a discount, and they only sold 2 as a limit. So I called my friend, like, dude, you got to get 2 of these for me. I'll pay you back so I can get 4 of them and give me a good start on it. And so I put it together with a couple of extra orders from Bricklink, obviously. A lot of windows go into that thing, but it came together pretty well. And I've also had, I did a tutorial on how to build it, and I've also seen some people's videos of it come online. I'm like, that's so weird to kind of see other people's creation. It's exactly the same thing, it's identical. So really cool to see that recreated from other people as well. And then, of course, right next to it is the Sit Complex, a very popular build. That is a design by Kim Plata. Also known as Brick Artisan. He's in the Philippines, and he does Lego instructions for a lot of those sitcom Lego sets and puts them into apartment buildings. And I reached out to him, I was like, dude, I gotta build this. Please, let's work together to get this thing done. So he's been really gracious in letting me build that thing and showcase it in videos. And I did a little bit of a mock right next door to it that I call the Lex Complex, kind of just to help make it look like a more complete building there in the downtown area. But it is getting huge. It is so heavy, you guys. These Lego sets and these Lego layouts get so darn heavy. You got to make sure your tables are nice and strong.
That's a good time to bring up, because that's a question we always get when we visit some place like this with like a big layout. Is what is the kind of logistics like and the table setup like here?
Yeah, that's a good question. So when we finished our basement 4 or 5 years ago, and so we had to tear everything out. So everything was upstairs, just Lego everywhere. But as soon as we were done, I didn't finish. Other people built it, obviously. But I got down here, I laid out everything I did all the measurements so I could actually still fit around the edge. But the tables had to be strong enough, not just to put the Lego on, but for me to get on the tables myself, because this area right here is really hard to reach into. So if I have to get to this area right here, I do actually have to step on the tables right here.
Really?
You don't want to see that. It is just, it's a horrendous sight. But I'm reaching out there, you're like, everything's shaking. But it's very sturdy. My kids get on this thing as well. Not so much anymore. But I think there's mostly everywhere in the tables you can actually get on, and it'll support the weight of a grown adult in most cases, you know.
So is that a particular brand of tables you use, or are they all the same? Or
They're all custom built. I went to the Home Depot and got a bunch of 2x4s and plywood and put it all together. The old version actually had those 2x4 legs as well, but you can see I've actually got these new metal legs right here that work a lot better for the tables. A lot more sturdier, and they look better too. They look nicer. So like when we finished the basement, like, okay, we got to step up our games. We got to make it look a little nicer. So we got those from IKEA, and we pretty much bought them all out. I think there wasn't many left after we were done with it.
there you go. Yeah, I mean, with this much setup here, well, do you know like the total square footage of the layout? It's kind of an interesting shape with it being sort of like an L here.
It's interesting because you can never see the entire city in one shot. I think downtown is the best shot, maybe from the Shmu Tower itself. But I think it's approximately, just the surface area, not underneath, I think it's about 360 square feet of space. So
yeah,
pretty decent size,
That's incredible. Well, as we come back in here, so we can kind of move in front of the large towers, and you've got a lot of the modular buildings laid out and just kind of a cityscape in general. So what are some of your kind of favorite details sprinkled throughout there?
My favorite details of the downtown area is probably, it's kind of hard to see this, but I love Cafe Corner. And when that came out back in 2007, I thought, oh my goodness, Lego finally nailed it. And so I bought 2 of those, and I'm so glad I did, because it turned out that these things are pretty high commodity, right?
Yes. The modulars definitely get expensive.
Absolutely. So I have all of the modulars except for one, and I think that was Market Street. I did have it at one point, but I sold it because it was my least favorite. But it was going for ridiculous prices, and I was trying to rebuild the city with other sets, so I took that as an opportunity to help finance it, right? But as you can see, it's getting very hard to find space in the downtown area, and we're coming up at the end of the year here, and I'm sure Lego's going to announce a new one, and I'm thinking, where on earth is that thing going to go? So we'll figure it. It's a good problem to have, though, right?
Do you have all of the modulars represented here?
Yep. I think except for Market Street, they're all there, and you can see I've got duplicates of a number of them as well. There's usually the corner buildings work pretty well for duplicates as well. And I think I'm looking around. Yeah, I think we also have. It's a shame too, because I always made it a point to have them all face this direction that we're looking at, right? But it's gotten to the point where it's so big, some of them are facing backwards, right?
Yeah.
So you got to be on the other side of the tables to really see all of the modulars in one shot.
Now, something that makes any massive city layout like this so much fun is the minifigures and kind of the small little scenes throughout it. So is that something that you do a lot of yourself? Do you have your family kind of help with that and just kind of placing like fun little scenes with minifigures doing different stuff throughout the whole city?
I think I could do better with doing that. One thing that's really cool with my city is a little segment in our channel we call Minifig Mayhem, where fans of the channel can send their signature minifigures to live in the city of Minneapolis. So over the last several months, we've gotten well over 100 minifigures that live here in Minneapolis, and those are the fun ones. It's hard to find a spot where we don't see somebody represented in the city. It's really cool the way to connect with our audience as well. But I think I could do a lot better as far as setting up fun little scenes. There's some people that are really good and creative at doing that. For the most part, people in my city are going about their day. They're busy. They're going about their jobs, running errands, things like that.
Now, another fantastic feature that you've got here is the monorail track. You've got train tracks, so you've got lots of different forms of transportation throughout the city that a lot of people love seeing in addition to the buildings themselves.
Yeah, the infrastructure was very important to me. I wanted to make sure, because of the scale of this thing, that if I'm a minifigure and I need to get to the airport, if I want to go to the residential area, that I can get there with relative ease, right? So what are my options? So yeah, you can get a cab, but you can also take the airport shuttle. Yeah, you can take train. And I think that's also a big reason why I elevated the city, is because of the train track. Man, making train track work with a large city, any city really for that matter, is so darn difficult. So I cheated a little bit with elevating the downtown area. That way my trains can actually go underneath the city without having to move a lot of buildings out of the way. But of course, the airport shuttle is beautiful. I love this thing, and it'd be a lot easier, maybe just to put it away. But it has been my favorite Lego set growing up as a teenager, and I just love having it out in the city. I'm very fortunate to actually have a couple of them in my collection. Had to buy some extra straight track, as you can tell, to make this all work. but that stretches forth almost the entirety of the Lego city. So the airport shuttle is definitely a good way to get around downtown.
That is incredible. Do you keep that stuff running very often here? Can you turn all that on if you want to?
Yeah, in fact, I think, let's see if this is going to work. Let's go over here. Let's use this train right here. And let's have that thing go around. I have it going through the loop here.
Oh, look at that,
coaster.
going through the loop coaster.
Yep, a little sketchy when the people were on that, but it works out pretty well.
Perfect.
Yeah, let's see, what is that thing now? It's like over 30 years old, right?
Wow. Still chugging along.
It's still chugging along, yeah. Both the trains work pretty well. And for the most part, they make it. So
eventually, the
they're still in
city will
service.
invest in some modern infrastructure.
Yeah,
but until
right,
then,
right. Until then, we're just kind of maintaining the old stuff, right? So there we go. Let's see if it works. Click, just like that. Kids love these things.
Yeah.
Man. Yeah, it's good stuff.
Perfect. And then you mentioned earlier, I wanted to come back to what you said about kind of raising some of the city up here. So what is that like structurally in terms of getting that higher off the tables and making sure that things aren't collapsing down here?
That is a good, great question. So I put down a lot of 2x4s in between the city, the first layer and the second layer. And I've moved them around a lot because as you place more and more stuff on top, it tends to bow the wood underneath it. So I've had to add more and more as it gets heavier and heavier. In fact, when I put the Shmoo Tower there at the back, I put it together really quick, and I noticed there was something wrong with my table. It was bowing, like the whole Shmoo Tower was leaning backwards.
Oh no!
And I thought, oh, okay, this is very, very heavy. So I went and got an extra support in the back just to hold that up. And another challenge was, how tall do I make it? I want to make sure that it's not too crazy tall where I have enough room to build taller buildings. So I settled on 7 inches, and I don't really know if that was the best approach. Maybe it should have been more. Shouldn't be less. I'll tell you that. Go taller. You won't regret it. So 7 inches is where I have it right now. For the most part, it works pretty well. It's a good level difference. Lego cars, trucks, things, and especially your trains can go underneath it with relative ease.
Yeah. So what is it like for you building then with that much space under there, and how do you kind of add things in there? Is it difficult? I would imagine it'd be very difficult to reach in there.
Okay, underneath the downtown area, you'll notice it's going to be relatively empty. And the reason for that is because I simply cannot reach underneath there. My kids could actually crawl underneath there at one point, but not anymore. Even they've outgrown it. So it's a great spot to actually park cars and things like that. Obviously underneath the that section that comes out from the downtown area where the hospital and airport are, that's my train yard. So the train yard fits relatively well underneath there. It's a good spot to park them because trains take up a lot of space. And I think you're going to see another area over on the other side where I've used the underneath area just as a massive parking lot to park a lot of those dormant cars. Solve the parking problem.
There you go. Yes, yes. Well, we can keep moving kind of this direction in the city then and take a look at some kind of beachfront property here. So what all do you kind of include in this section?
Man, this section has changed quite a bit. These used to be where I had Ninjago City. I had the docks and things like that right here. But they kept coming out with more and more, and it just did not fit anymore. So this changes quite a bit. You know what? The entire city changes so much. I'm always rebuilding things, as you guys know. I think ever since I rebuilt this thing 4 or 5 years ago, it's been rebuilt at least 3 times over.
Yeah.
At least, right? So that's the joy of having Lego, is you keep recreating and stuff like that. And this area right here is no exception. So pretty happy with how the layout is right now. We have some, like you said, beachfront property with some water going through here, a recreational area, got some beach area. And of course we have the Mos Eisley Cantina that just was added to the area recently. So very happy to have that somewhere in the city as well. So yeah, I don't know, this is the valley, I think is what I call it. Nunes Valley, I don't know, I don't have an official name for it here quite yet. But it's a nice little social mecca for fun and eating.
Yeah. I love this cafe here. It's like a great throwback there to some of those older Lego cafe
early
sets.
90s, yes.
Yeah.
And you can tell I got 2 of them and just kind of slapped them back to back, gave it some slight upgrades, and there you go. It's your upscale restaurant right there on the beachfront, and right across the street from the, what is that, the 2021 Year of the Bull set. That's a little dated now, unfortunately, but I just love it. It looks so, it's like a great park there. You can just kind of walk around and enjoy the scenery. It's really nice.
And I think we see some sprinkled throughout here of the Bricklink, is it the ADP sets as well
yeah,
that you
you're
have
right.
in here?
Yeah, so let's see. That was back in 2019. So we have 8 studs right there. That's one of them that I absolutely love. That's been a fantastic build to it. And we have the Science Tower right here overlooking everything. And I think we have bikes. Yeah, right here we have the bikes, guys, that you can rent. And gosh, do I have any others? Is it just those? Oh, you know what? There's one in the down at the Hot Shots. That's in the amusement park.
Well, that was a great program, though. Have you picked up
was.
some from the more recent waves of the Bricklink sets as well?
Yeah, those have been the crowdfunding ones. I've got one from each is what I've managed to pick up. So I got Castle in the Forest from Wave 1, and I'm waiting for my retro bowling alley, and it keeps getting put on back order.
Yes.
It's so frustrating. So hopefully I'll have that in the next month. Right now it's still a month out, which I have no idea where I'm going to put that. We'll figure that out later. But very excited to get that. And then I think we have the construction modular from the round 3 that I was able to get. Those things sold out so quick. Wow.
Yeah, very, very in demand.
Yeah, for sure. So it's good to see. But hopefully, if you wanted one of those, you got one, because they sold out in minutes.
I love the bridge section there as well. I think that adds kind of a nice kind of raised 3D type element to the valley section here as well.
Yeah, that's been a fun mock. And some people have asked me to bring it to the show. I thought, a bridge to the show? Okay, well, maybe. But it actually, what I like about it is it serves a real purpose. You know, it actually connects the downtown area to the residential area. People can obviously ride their bikes on it as well, and that's grown quite a bit. It used to just go nowhere. It used to go out and go down, but now that I've elevated the residential area, I thought, you know what? It actually serves a real purpose finally.
And as we make our way to the other side of the valley here, you can see some really nice kind of residential areas, as well as some essential city needs back there
Yes.
as well. One thing that stands out here, though, is you use these great base plates as well. So what is your approach kind of throughout the city in terms of roads and base plates?
Yeah, tough question, because a lot of stuff is transitioning to the new road plate system. A lot of people use mills, and there's a lot of value to that. Mine's getting a little bit archaic with these old base plates, but I love them so much because I grew up with them, right? I have the old ones that I kind of like, the old part of town there, the green ones right here, and of course you have the dark gray ones in the downtown area. And I've thought about transitioning into these new road plates, but it's not going to be an easy one if I do. For the most part, I think it works right now. I think we're just going to have to wait till I have a catastrophe with space. And then I'll have to, like, okay, I got to rethink this and invest heavily in the new road plate system. So for now, I like how it looks. It works. It's functional. And also a lot of people of my age, I'll just say, kind of appreciate it. Like, hey, I had those road plates and those the same Lego sets. Like we have those old ones there in the back row. The old emergency treatment center from the early 90s. Those ones are just from the mid 90s. There's a lot of old sets, and that's what I love hearing from fans when they see the videos of my city. Like, oh man, I recognize that set. I had that when I was a kid, 20, 25 years ago. Then you feel kind of old, but that's how it goes, right?
Exactly. But you've got some great buildings in here as well. So one that stands out is the temple build here. So what is that based on?
So that is one of my first original mocks. Now, when I was dating my wife, she looked at my city and said, honey, you need to get some religion in your city, because I had some clubs, I'll just say that, in my city. So I said, all right. I took that as an opportunity to build a temple. And that's based solely off of the Draper, Utah temple that we have here locally. And it turned out pretty well, and a lot of people have borrowed that for events and things like that, which I'm happy to do. And it's massive in the city, but when it was at the show, it seems so small next to some other creations. It was just crazy to see that. But I've thought about rebuilding it, but every time I think, you know what, it's one of my originals, and it works pretty well, so I'm pretty happy to have that where it's at. But it's always a challenge to place it, because it takes up a lot of space. And that's, of course, is always the issue, is finding more space to put your stuff.
And then some fantastic houses along here, maybe a little dilapidated in the background there.
Yeah, definitely, right? There's some issues going on with that haunted house. I'm not sure how long that's going to stay in the city. I love having it there. But yeah, we have the McAllisters living right there next to the Simpsons. It's interesting neighbors to have, but so far there's been no domestic disputes. Police haven't been called or anything like that, so that's good to see. But yeah, it's pretty fun. We have the Quickie Mart out there as well. So you can get your overpriced groceries, and it's kind of a shame. I have a great mock gas station behind the temple there, Octane station, and gas stations are tough to find to get into your city, because they do take up a lot of space, but people need to get their fuel. So
oh, yeah.
that's where it's at right there, hanging out in in the residential area.
You mentioned the parking earlier, so you can see underneath some cars and stuff there as well. And I also gotta commend your lighting here, especially like underneath there. It's great. It's very well lit. So many times we'll be at a show and the lighting is just so tough to really see a lot of the details and what's going on here.
It's dark, yeah. I don't like the darkness. I got to see things. So those lights came up after I had installed the table. I'm like, oh well, if I'm gonna put stuff underneath here, I definitely got to put lights in there. So that was a fun day. I'll just say that. But results speak for itself. It's really nice to have well lit underneath there, and that's obviously the parking mostly for the amusement park. So.
And yeah, that brings us down kind of the road ramp here, down another level, and we start to get, as we saw a little bit earlier, you got some monorail here, the tree house, but then mostly kind of this is the amusement park section.
Yeah, this is the amusement park. You'll notice that there are sections in the city. This is the last section here. It used to be the camping section, but it's just become the amusement park. I've given in. It's the amusement park, all of it. So this was recently rebuilt just a few weeks back, just because the loop coaster came out and I had no room for it. So I thought, well, I want it. It's mandatory that I have it, and I had no room for it. So I just ripped this all out and started all over. And this is the result. And it worked out pretty well. I tried a few different techniques with the rock face. I elevated the red roller coaster here as well as the haunted house to kind of give me some more space. Again, getting train track to work in a city is very, very tough. And I thought one day, as I was staring at the ceiling in my bed, I thought, you know what if it went underneath the roller coaster? And well, that was the result.
Perfect. Yeah, I love to see it build up like this, and you've got the haunted house set as well there.
Yeah, it works out pretty well. That was a maybe too. I built some framing back here, and I picked this thing up and I put it on the frame, and I went over here and I thought, okay, does it look okay? I'm like, you know what? It looks good. And it was a big decision because once you make that decision, you're stuck on it. Luckily for me, it worked out pretty well. Let's see if it actually works here. Pretty quick ride,
there you
right?
go,
There you
yeah.
go. And I think this guy goes too. Let's see if I can pick this guy up here.
You get a lot of movement. It gets loud down here when everything's
These
going.
motors are loud. It is crazy.
So what's your favorite of the Lego amusement park rides that they've done in the last several years here? Do you have a favorite?
That's a tough call. I think this roller coaster, I think, is still my favorite. The loop coaster, no shade, it's fantastic, but it is over pretty darn quick. Let me turn this thing. I don't know if it's on. Oh, it is hooked up. There you go. It goes pretty quick, right? And but I think, generally speaking, yeah, that roller coaster is my favorite there. Because when that thing came out, I thought, oh man, Lego nailed it again. I got to definitely get that. And I've actually bought a second one just for fun, just to have. So, boom, just like that.
I love it. And since we're down here at this corner of the city, I want to make sure we mention, obviously, your kind of building area here. So is this primarily where a lot of the building happens for the city in this section?
It sure does, yeah. And it is always a mess, as you can see. I tried to clean it for you guys, but I'm like, yeah, heck with it. It's not going to work out.
It's well used. That's okay.
It's well used, exactly. No, I'm there a lot, and especially in the summer months because it's nice and cool down here. And but I'm finding out my 10-year-old probably spends more time down here than I do stealing Lego bricks. And I'm like, wait, where is this drawer and where is that piece? I'm like, Jimmy, what have you done? So I do spend a lot of time there trying to organize. And I recently started trying to collect minifigures. So I got these display cases fairly recently. And they fill up pretty quick, especially if you like certain minifigures. So that's been a lot of fun. And as you can see, I'm out of wall space already. So trying to figure that all out it's a never-ending problem, but a problem I'm happy to have. So
exactly, yeah. So what's your organizational approach here? I know that's something people always wonder with Lego fans is how you approach that.
I think it's different for everybody. It depends on how much you have of each type of element or color. I try to go by color and type of element. It just depends on the quantity that I have. So you can see a lot of grays and browns and things like that are together. Some more drawers down here that are like the larger pieces of a certain color that I have. And that's really about it. These things got full pretty darn quick, and these are Acro Mills drawers organization. They work pretty well, but they're hard to get a hold of now for some reason. So these are also, I think, Acro Mills, and these work pretty well. They're stackable. I got some of the old gray. Remember these guys?
Oh,
Very old gray, right? Haven't seen that for about 20 years. So it's always a mess. It's always changing, too. It just depends. Like when I was redoing the amusement park, I had a lot of gray elements in here, obviously, because of all the rock elements. So But yeah,
your
crazy.
vehicle collection is extremely impressive all throughout here and on the shelf up there and everything. So is that a theme, like the vehicles in general, that you really try to collect?
I love the cars. I love the 1/8 scale vehicles the best. I love the amount of detail they put into them, the suspension, the working gearboxes, the pistons has been fantastic. So those 1/8 scale Technic cars are always a mandatory buy for me. Yeah, but yeah, again, space is tough, right? And the Speed Champions are great too. They're a little too wide for the city, unfortunately. The 6 stud wide is kind of the limit. I think that works in a Lego city. So these guys are more for display at the moment.
Now, when people look at this much Lego laid out, one of the first questions is always, what do you do about dust? And how do you handle that? So what is your approach to keeping all of this clean down here?
I don't want to talk about dust. It's just, dust is tough. Dust and little hands, those are the two worst enemies to Lego, right? But I suffer from dust just like anybody else, and I'm a little OCD when it comes to I want to keep it clean. People always look at my city like, man, how do you keep it so clean? The truth is, it's not. It is pretty dusty. So I do have a general approach. I have a Swiffer duster that does well for surfaces like this that are easy enough to get to. But the nitty gritty stuff, man, that is so darn tough. And that what I do for that is I use brushes, paint brushes actually.
Okay.
And there's some that are pretty soft bristles that do a great job of getting to the nooks and crannies. I also have this company that sent me a vacuum to review called Clean My Bricks. I don't know if you've heard of that.
No.
But, I haven't opened it yet. We're gonna give that thing a go and see how well it does. Let's see if it does clean my bricks or not.
There we go.
But no, what I usually do is if I am doing a more detailed rebuild, that's when I take the opportunity to do more detailed cleaning, because then I actually have it. I can take it over to my desk and I can clean it and put it back into the city. So if something hasn't moved for a long time, then those are pretty dirty. Usually the modulars get pretty dusty down there.
You're like a museum curator or something, where you're like taking it off of display and we're going to clean it up a little bit.
Yeah, that's exactly it. That's exactly it. So I want to say that the amusement park, since it is recently rebuilt, is probably the cleanest part of the city.
Perfect. Well, we'll round our way around the corner here. So come to sort of the back side. So do you kind of set up everything with like, looking at it from the side we started at? Is that the idea that generally people, that's the best approach?
Yeah, generally speaking. Yeah, I think so.
Can John, are you going to be able to? We'll squeeze
suck-
back
yeah,
here.
suck
There we
it
go.
in,
Yeah, make sure it doesn't mind. So you can get a little closer look at some of these details that might have been harder to see from the other side there. So do you spend much time on this side of the table, or is it mostly over there?
Both. It's pretty equal, because if you're organizing or anything you're doing, you're like, oh man, what's really tough is, do I crawl underneath the tables or do I walk around? And the older I get, the more I walk around.
I see. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So here's you mentioned the gas station earlier. Here you can get a lot better view of that. I like that. And then this building, I noticed it earlier, but I wanted to wait until we got to this side. It's like a shipping container housing. So what is that?
So at the Lego store, they had those build panels, those red panels. I thought, hey, that's really cool. I could probably do something with those. So I bought a bunch of them, and I figured, hey, I think I could probably build a container house out of it. So I did that, and I think for the most part it worked out really well. Let me reach in here, way in there, and there's some very basic living space in there, right? You even got a goldfish. Hey, there you go, right? Not bad. So, and that's you got to be a younger person to live in that thing, because you got stairs in there. So, but yeah, that was a lot of fun. But I wish it was a little more multicolored.
Can see you stretching here to reach.
Oh man, it's always a stretch, and I'm vertically challenged, Josh. So I got to reach really far or have a stool or something. But no, that worked out pretty well. And again, you got to be on the other side of the city to appreciate a lot of this stuff as well, right?
Yes, no, but it's great to come around from all different perspectives, kind of get closer look at the details. And then this side, so we talked about the bridge earlier, but then you've got the kind of rail bridge right here as well, with these big tracks kind of keeping it up.
Yeah, can you believe it? I found a good working solution for a lot of these curved elements right here. Because if you get the airport shuttle or any train set in general, you get a lot of curves, and probably too many that you can even use. So as you can see here, I use several of them as supports to hold up the airport shuttle track. Worked out pretty well.
And you even got a little like skate park back in here.
Yeah, the skate park is actually one of the signature minifigure things that we got from Minifig Mayhem. They gave us a whole skate park. I was like, wow, thank you. We'll find a good spot for it. So it's back here in the spot in the city that is seen the very least back here, I think. It's really hidden back here behind the bridge. So it doesn't get a lot of love, unfortunately, but it's where the kids like to come and hang out.
There you go. I love that. I don't think we mentioned earlier the little waterfall as well that kind of leads down into the valley there.
Yeah, so we used to have, like I said, I had Ninjago City up here before, and that's water-based. So I had this whole water base right here, and then the waterfall came down from Ninjago City. And then, of course, I moved it out. But I didn't want to lose my little waterfall. So I decided to kind of keep some sort of automation of water up here in the downtown area. So that was still something we could keep. Hey, the airport shuttle. Let's go ahead and have this
Oh,
thing
yeah.
go.
There we go.
That should go all the way to our airport and then come back to us. We'll see if it makes it or not. It's a long, perilous journey.
While that's traveling around, we can see some more of the details kind of in the midst of the modular buildings and inside here. What's the story behind the cars there on the lawn?
Well, they're Ferraris, and they're on display, and I forgot all about them, to be honest with you. So I usually have, that's my seasonal area, so I gotta, if it's Christmas or Easter or whatever the case might be, that goes in there. Right now it's Ferrari Day, I guess.
That works, that works. You can see the monorail is coming back to us, so
Hey,
it's working properly.
All right, fantastic. Good to see, good to see.
And you can see, you mentioned this building earlier, and I know it's really tight here, so it might be hard for John to show inside, but this is the building we were talking about earlier with all of the sitcom floors inside it, so you can see inside there some of those big windows and some of the details and everything in there, which is super cool. And then, of course, the masonry bricks, which I know so many builders have embraced those. They look so great.
Man, they do, and it's hard to get them out here in the States. I have a friend out in London who goes to the Lego store. He's like, hey, Alex, I'm at the Lego store. There's a lot of these masonry bricks. Want me to pick some up? I'm like, yes, hook me up, my man. And he has, and that's where a lot of those have come from.
And beyond that, the Avengers Tower, and then a few of the smaller buildings that were harder to see earlier from the other side in here as well. Some of those modulars, little billboard sections and that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm. And you got a little bit of Diagon Alley there. It's really, really squished in there, but I was really happy to actually make that work out there. So we got a little bit of the wizarding world in the downtown area as well.
And you can see in this big tower, there's no interior. So how do you approach that? Do most of your buildings typically not have interiors, or is it something you maybe hope to add in the future?
Most of them do have interiors, but this thing was just so gigantic.
Okay.
I don't have anything to put into it yet. I do have plans to actually get this thing filled up this year. I actually do want to rebuild it and actually have the windows go all the way around it. So we'll see how that goes. Give me a year on that, guys. We'll see how this goes.
We're squeezing our way through here behind the buildings a little more, and we come back from kind of around the skyscrapers. Got the Ghostbusters building here.
Got the Ghostbusters. Probably my favorite Lego set that's in the city right now. It was just a fantastic build. I love having that in the city. As you can see, I do have a gaping hole there in the middle of the downtown area. I usually have a blue felt panel that goes there as a little pond, but I got to access the area somewhere somehow. So I do squeeze my little body through there and suck it in, and I always knock something down, of course, every time I do. So, but it works out pretty well.
And now I think, is this kind of the backside of the airport? We'll obviously see a lot more as we go around here.
Yeah, so now we're entering more of the industrial side of Minneapolis, and yeah, we're seeing the back of the hospital. And you can kind of see a little bit of it's definitely better looking from the front, we'll just say that, right? But we do have a dedicated airport shuttle station for it. And then, of course, another shuttle that goes into the airport itself.
Got the police station over there with all the vehicles parked as well.
Yeah, that is an area where I want to actually put a more significant mock for a fire station. But it'd be a little redundant right that close to the Ghostbusters firehouse. We'll see how this goes. This is where you're going to really
oh boy.
There. Good luck, guys.
Before we move on, I wanted to point out this technique that if you can talk about this a little more. I love the way you did this with like the curved ceiling here, and that's using train tracks, right?
Yeah, again, making use of a lot of the train track you're not going to be using, which is going to be a lot of curved. Now, this technique isn't new. I've seen it used with other builders, but not to this scale. So I really wanted to do something unique and different for my next airport. So I just built this big bowl, this big square, and put that on top of it, and it worked pretty darn well. I think there's about almost 600 of these blue elements on the roof here. That make that up, and that was really fun to show that off at the show, because you pick it up and people have no idea that it's train track. They go, oh wow, that's great. So it worked really well. I don't know how many train track pieces are in there, probably like 30 something or 40 something, but it's plenty to spare. Could probably make it twice as big, and you still have plenty of track left.
Yeah, no, I love that. That's a great technique. We'll squeeze through here now. John will have to be careful with the camera, but I think he can make it.
Good luck there, buddy.
So before we go around to the front there, then we kind of got a train yard section, it looks like.
Yes, now we're getting to the thick of the industrial side. And the train yard is always tough to get to fit and have it also be functional, right? Because you want to display your trains, you want them to actually be going through as well without having to, make a lot of changes with how it looks. But that's how it looks right now, and I'm never super happy with it. We'll continue to work on this area, but it's always in contention with the docks, obviously. But for the most part, it works fairly well at the moment. But very happy and fortunate to have two of those train engine sheds. That was a hot item, and I wish Lego did more of those. They do plenty of trains.
Yeah.
But seeing things like level crossings or train engine sheds like that is something that I think we'd love to see more of as A Falls.
Now, I think we might need some emergency services over here. We've got the bottom of the helicopter appears to be sitting on the platform, and then we've got the rest crashed.
That is just terrible. Well, it's the fire station right there, so I think they're equipped to take care of the emergency, right?
There we go.
Yeah.
I love that little marina you got in there, though, and then it opens up to some of the larger ships.
This section right here, I kind of call my mid-'90s part of the city, right? So there's a lot of sets out here that came out around that time. You have the Coastal Rescue Base, this fire station that came in the early and mid-'90s as well. The seaports, the intercoastal seaport, and launch and load seaports, I think we're in the early '90s as well. As you can see, I got two of them. And it's great. I love it. It makes it look like it's a thriving economy, right? A lot of imports and exports with our cargo ships. This old guy right here, this is the baby that started it all. This is my first Lego set.
Really?
Yeah, got that back in, I think, around 1988. On a family vacation out in California. My dad said, hey, get this and try to shut me up, right? And it did. I was having a great time with that, and that's what started it all. And as a teenager, all I wanted for Christmas or any kind of gift for birthday, I just wanted Lego, Lego, Lego. It's still the same way, so.
I love that. You got the new lighthouse set as
Got the
well?
new lighthouse, yeah. Put that together last week, and that was a lot of fun to build, and works pretty well. Pretty bright, I guess. I turned off all the lights, and it doesn't shine into the Lego city very well, but it does pretty well.
For approaching ships, it should be okay.
Approaching ships, it should be okay. I'm going to work a little bit better on getting that a little bit integrated, but for the most part, I just kind of plopped that down and said, okay, it's right there, it's good, let's move on.
Perfect. Well, you can keep moving down here, and
Right.
it looks like we got a hospital, another gas station. So it's good that you've got those gas stations represented throughout the city.
Yeah, you got it, really. And I'm glad that Octan has some competition with the Shell station,
Yeah.
right? You can't have a monopoly. So that's one of the very, very old Lego set. I want to say that's circa 1988 or 89 or something like that. But I love having these old sets in here. And yeah, it would be easy to put it into storage and put something more modern there, but I just like having the representation of old Lego sets because that's representation of me and how long I've been collecting Legos. So sets that are decades old or just came out a few days ago, you'll find them in the city.
Perfect. And then we come to the real money shot here with the
money shot,
airport
yeah, I like
and
that,
the
yeah.
hospital. I love that. This view is fantastic. So what all is happening up there?
A lot, it's crazy. Just two buildings are there, but they take up a really lot of space. Now, airports are tough. If you're building a Lego city, a lot of people just say, I cannot do an airport. It just takes up way too much space. And I agree, it does. And it barely does fit because you need a lot of runway. But for the most part, it works fairly well. It's a little tight, obviously, but very happy to have it in there. And we have the new hospital continues to get bigger and bigger every time I put it together. And this last rendition is no exception to that rule. Very, very large. I wanted to put another floor in there, but just ran out of pieces. But I think you guys did a feature on that some time ago. I think there's a good 12,000 plus pieces involved in that. Very full and detailed interior. Put my heart and soul into that thing because it is representation of our little girl who passed away in infancy. So we name it after her, the Rebecca Memorial Hospital.
I love the detailed floors inside there, though. That's so cool. Especially you use those big window pieces really nicely too. I like we saw in some of your other buildings earlier. So it's really makes it easy for people to see inside there and kind of get an idea that it's a lot of lifelike, a lot of action happening in there.
Right. I guess I got to get some lights in there now, huh? Now my wife is a nurse, right? And so I consulted her a lot. And the one thing she wanted to make sure I got right was the break room. I had to make sure that there was a nice break room that they can go in there and relax and get some snacks. I'm like, all right, you got it, hun.
This is only someone who's actually worked at something like that. They would point that out.
Yes,
Like, this
absolutely,
is a key element.
Absolutely, right.
And then down below that, we've got a little more kind of was that like a train station there and some more industrial area?
Yeah, that's the Grand Central Station, and it looks like I'm missing the Horizon Express. That's my demo train. I guess it's on demo. So, but yeah, that's the main hub of the train station. Things move through there pretty quick, and got a lot of underneath the table there as well. Try to keep that as lit as possible. And you know, I was late to the train game. I didn't have a lot of trains with the city, and then I caught up pretty darn quick, almost too quickly, to where I don't really have enough space to put any more new trains in there. So.
Wow. Well, I mean, you still got a lot on display, so that's great. So it's still a very impressive collection under
Not
there.
bad, not bad, yeah. But we can do better. We can get more in there. Come on, there's plenty of space, right?
And then what is this section to the right here?
So that is a fairly recent mock. That is my oil refinery. And I've seen this in a lot of cities. I thought, man, it looks so cool. And it would fit so well in the industrial side of town. So I looked through my inventory, tried to find some pieces that looked kind of, well, like they belong in an oil refinery. So I put that together, I think 2 or 3 years ago, and it's worked pretty well for the most part. And I asked for some constructive criticism, and people were relatively nice to me. One person did point out that I'm missing the oil, so there you go. But other than that, it's pretty good. I'm really happy that the train actually goes through it, right? So you can load it up and unload it and all that stuff. And I want to say that, and I didn't check this before, but oh, there he is.
Oh, yeah.
We've got Homer Simpson working in there. That just inspires confidence, does it not?
Hard at work in there.
Absolutely. Way to go, Homer. Keep it going there, buddy.
So that kind of brings us around to where we started here as we get back to the main downtown, the large skyscraper section here. So do you have any idea how many pieces are in the entire city? Have you tried to keep track over the years at all?
Just the city? Well, I'm not down here counting, right?
Right.
But with the help of Brickset, with the amount of Lego sets that I have, this is the entire collection, not just the city. I think I have an estimated 650 to 700,000 pieces. I don't know how many of that's in the actual Lego city, but I think that's about, give or take, 10,000. I don't know.
No, I can believe it. This, I mean, it adds up very quickly with a layout of this size.
Yeah, right,
here.
right.
So how many hours a week would you say you're kind of down here working on stuff and either switching buildings in and out or building new things? What is that typically like for you?
It's feast or famine, I think. If things are going crazy at work or family things are going on, very little time. But if those are okay, I'm down here 2-3 hours a day, especially if I'm rebuilding something. Then I'm like, oh man, I got to get that done, and it's always on my mind, and I'll come down here. So when I was building the amusement park or rebuilding that, I was down here 2 or 3 hours each night working on that, and usually it comes at the sacrifice of sleep, right? Because you got duties as a husband, father, and work and all that stuff. Because this is just a hobby, right? A big crazy hobby. I'll give you that, but it is a hobby at the end of the day, and so finding time to get down here is a little tough, but I find time.
There you go. Yeah. No, that's fantastic. And I know you obviously do, it is your hobby, but you have your own YouTube channel, obviously, which I believe just recently passed 100,000 subscribers, right? Congratulations on that. That's very cool. So someday, is there a dream to kind of make this more of a job for you? Would that be a goal at all?
Gosh, I don't know. That comes with a lot of stress, I think. Because right now it's fun. I want to keep it fun, and it's a great way to connect with other AFOLs out there. But we'll see. You never know, right? And I don't want to work forever, right? So that's one thing I want to do, and eventually in retirement, is be able to just really go crazy with the hobby, right? So
exactly.
We'll see what happens. I never intended to have a YouTube channel with that many subscribers. It's absolutely fantastic. I'll take it. But it's never been an ambition of mine. Like, you know what? I want to be a YouTuber. So it's been fun to see it grow the way it has.
So for people who haven't seen your channel before, what types of content are there, and how does that kind of relate to the city and what you do on the channel and showing off the city?
Yeah, obviously the city is what I mainly do on it, and what I try to do is listen to the audience. What do you guys want to see? This is what I try to put together, and I listen to my audience as far as you should try this or try that, and if I can, absolutely I do it, and that's really fun. It's more interactive that way, right? And I do a lot of Lego City or reviews of new Lego sets. I think 1 out of every 6 of my videos is a Lego set review, so that's a big part of my channel as well. And I've been trying to branch out and do other themes. So obviously Lego City is a big part of it, but a lot of people know that I'm trying to start a castle theme underneath the city, and a racetrack, and also there's other collections like Star Wars, and you saw the cars and things like that we'll look at a little later, right? So, but yeah, I don't know. Sometimes I'm down here and I look around and I think, man, what have I done? This is absolutely bonkers. but it's too late for me. I can't go back, you know. It's
Right.
the way it is.
No, it's incredible, and I think many people love seeing your city, and it's certainly a privilege to walk around and just kind of check all this out with you. I think this is really incredible here. So what are some of your other plans for the future for the city? One thing that came to mind for me is, obviously, we're in the Salt Lake City area here. You've got a lot of mountains. You go south in Utah, you've got like the Moab and a lot of incredible kind of natural landscapes there. So is there any plans to incorporate anything like that into any part of the city?
Ooh, man, I got to get a lot better at doing landscaping if that's the case. I don't know. It just kind of depends on how things go. Space is already an issue.
Yeah.
There's nowhere to go. I need a bigger house already, right? And that was one of the things that we wanted when we moved into this home, is that we got to find a house that has two things. It had to have room for my wife's piano. You guys saw that upstairs, right? And it also had a big empty basement for Lego. And it's like, all right, we bought this house. Man, look at all this space. We're never going to fill this up. Boom, filled it up almost instantly. So now it's about like, what do I want in the city, right? It's always a balancing act, and there's a lot of stuff that unfortunately goes into storage. But it's evolved quite a lot, and I have no idea what it's going to look like from one year to the next. We'll have to kind of see. But I don't really have any like, okay, I definitely want to do this in the next 5 years. I don't really plan that far ahead. I just kind of go day to day. What sounds fun, what looks cool, and let's try that, let's try this. So yeah.
There we go. I love it. No, that's so cool. So I can't wait to see what you have in the future then. And as you continue
me
to
too.
That, it's a surprise for all of us.
It really is. It really is. Yeah, you just never know. And a lot of that has to do with like, what is Lego coming out with next, and how do I adapt that to the city, and how does that affect the city and things that are going to be around it, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, now we can take a look at some more of the other Lego spaces in the house here.
Let's do it. Yeah, fun never ends, right?
Perfect. Now we're in what I'm calling the classic space section with lots of older Lego space themes here, and this is quite the incredible collection with a whole bunch of these older themes represented. So what all do you have on display?
Man, let's see here. I'm trying to go back to, I think M-Tron is the oldest here. I think they were the 1990s. We also have Blacktron. Obviously, the largest part of the collection is going to be Blacktron. My friends and I, we had epic space battles with these guys when we were teenagers, and Blacktron was kind of like the bad guy, so we loved them quite a bit. Destroyed these things so many times, in fact, that we knew how to rebuild them without the instructions. But I think these are all throughout the 90s. I think, unfortunately, what ended these was Star Wars. When that came out in 1999, we never saw anything like this ever again. I think we saw bits of it with Space Police 3 or something like that. But yeah, really happy with these guys. I've sold a lot of Lego in my day, and I've been tempted to sell these, but they're just too much of my childhood, you know, especially my teenage years of wanting to, you know, just having that appetite for destruction, you know, and having epic space battles. So these guys have been in storage for quite some time, and I wanted to find a way to display them. So I had them out underneath my city for quite some time, but that's where I'm putting the castle theme. So they had to go back into storage, and now they're back out of storage in here. So we found some room from here in the unfinished room in my basement, and hopefully they don't get too dusty here. I don't know. They're really close to the furnace, so we'll hopefully we'll get them protected. But
lots of nostalgia in this section, though. I can definitely understand why it's difficult to part with these.
Yeah, it really is. So, but like I said, they're a big part of the collection, especially growing up with Lego. And I think I'd like to have more. There's certain elements or sets that I'd like to have. Like there's the monorail sets that we have from space back then. There's Spirus and others I'd love to have. But for the most part, it's a pretty decent collection, and it displays pretty well. So got some lights up, very well lit, and here they sit.
So what are some of the highlights here? Because it's very rare for someone to have this large of a collection of this many different space themes like this. So what are some of your kind of favorite spaceships in here and just different elements from these themes?
I think my favorite has got to be the Galactic, the Galactic Mediator from Space Police. That was always hard for me to get. I actually didn't get that until I was an adult. So that was never part of my childhood collection. It always eluded me somehow. So very happy to have that. And the, let's see, the Megacore Magnetizer from M-Tron. I did get this when I was a teenager, and that thing was just so cool. It was different because it was a vehicle, it wasn't a spaceship. So we loved rolling over Lego people with that.
Look at those giant tires there.
I know,
that's
that was
sweet.
so cool. Yeah, yeah, for sure.
And then the theme in the bottom left here, a very different looking theme than pretty much all of these others you have on display.
Ice Planet 2002. I want to say these guys came out in around 94, 95. We had the Ice Station Odyssey there, the Deep Freeze Defender. This was a much larger collection, but it did skim down over the years, unfortunately. But I did keep the essentials. But yeah, they're a lot of fun. Very different. You got to have snow, so I got these this little fluffy cloth around them, so they feel nice and at home.
Yeah, fantastic. And is it difficult for you to decide kind of what you're going to hold on to, whether it's in storage or out in the city, and then what you kind of have to part with? Because obviously you've got so much in the city and then tons of other stuff. You can even see the boxes for so many great sets here as well. So what is that kind of balance like for you?
It's a tough balance because it's a decision you have to make. Okay, what do I want to be displayed? Like, for example, I had the Aquanauts displayed for quite some time under the city, and I love them, but I love these guys more than my Aquanauts and Aqua Sharks. So those guys are in storage among some other smaller collections, but I'm trying to find opportunities to bring them back out again, right? So I talked about Castle, and I talked about the racetrack. I'm trying to get, there's a lot of race cars back from the mid-90s. I keep saying mid-90s a lot. It's almost as if I was a kid back then.
Yeah, it's almost.
But those are going to come back out, and hopefully they're in good condition, relatively speaking, right? But these guys, they were in storage for many, many years, and maybe they'll go back. But for the moment, I'm pretty happy with them right here. We'll just kind of have to see how they do well with the dust. So if they're just if it's too much of an issue to clean them, I might have to put them back into storage. But for now, they're out in all of their glory, and I'm loving it.
No, that's fantastic. One of my favorite parts of your collection, whether it's the city or all these sets here, is a lot of those older sets that you have. And a lot of that stuff isn't readily available. So where have you sourced a lot of that from over the years that you've been collecting here?
So for the ones that have recollected, that weren't already in my collection, it's been opportunistic at my Bricks and Minifigs. A few there, not a lot, but mostly from Bricklink sellers. Yeah, that's mostly where I got some of them from. I know I got the Megacore, not the Galactic Mediator. I know I got that from a Bricklink seller, as well as a few smaller ones. This guy, I think it's called the Spectral Starguider. This guy was at a Bricks and Minifigs, and I saw that, and I went, I don't care how much it costs, give it. Well, I did a little bit, but it was a pretty penny, but I was very happy to find that because I did not have that. So I picked that guy up, and there it is. I love these six-wheeled vehicles. I guess I love the vehicles with the big wheels, apparently.
Yeah. Hey, they look awesome.
They
Very
do.
intimidating.
Very intimidating, yes, right.
So are you always kind of keeping an eye out for more like older sets like that and deals and that sort of thing? Or is that something you'll kind of pick up just whenever the opportunity arises?
If there's something there and I want it and I like it, obviously if it's in this kind of theme, I'll definitely get it. But the big barrier is going to be price. So for example, I think Bricks and Minifigs has a couple or one or two of these guys, right? And I don't know how they're selling it for, but I look at that and go, well, I got two of those, I'm good, you know. But if I didn't have that, that'd be very, very tempting, right? So it's when those show up, I go, ooh, what are they selling that for? And I'll usually grab one.
There you go. I love it. Well, this is so cool to see all this stuff laid out as well, but we can keep taking a look at more of the collection.
Plenty more to see.
So now we've made our way to the office here, and you can see in addition to a fantastic number of computer monitors, we have an incredible Lego set collection as well. What stands out here to me is definitely the various pirate ships on display here. So which ones do you have represented?
Let's see here. Well, we have the original, this is the Creator 3-in-1, right? That's fairly new, right there. And then we have the Pirates of Barracuda Bay. And then from there we have Queen Anne's Revenge and the Black Pearl. Now those two have been modified quite heavily. When you get these ships from Lego, they're really the bare bones, right? There's not a lot to them. So I wanted to add a lot of extra detail and girth to them. So I did actually add an extra 8 studs in length to the Black Pearl as well. Probably did a little bit too much, but you know what? It's fine, whatever.
There's no such thing as too much with Lego.
There's no ever doing it, right? Yeah. So really love those. And I also have the Skull's Eye Schooner from 1993. Got that for Christmas that morning. It was a great Christmas day. And of course, I have modified that a little bit as well. And then I also just recently picked up, I think it's called the Brick Bounty. I got that fairly recently I think it was at Bricks and Minifigs, actually. They had it there in the box for a pretty good deal. So I picked that up and did some modifications to it as well. And I've been slowly building up the pirate collection. These two, the Black Pearl and the Queen Anne's Revenge, I did buy those from Bricklink seller at the same time. That was a lot of money.
Those I know went up in price very quickly. Yeah.
Don't tell my wife. But anyway, I was really happy to get those now because I think they're even more these days. But yeah, I was trying to rebuild the kind of a collection of pirate ships, among other things. And but I had them downstairs for quite some time, trying to do kind of a layout. But I thought, you know what? I think they look better on display up here. it's nice kind of looking at. I think they display well on a shelf anyway.
They do look fantastic. It's so cool to see the different ships that LEGO's released over the years, and the sails are so colorful, and they just look so great on display there.
Yeah, hopefully they keep coming out with them. I mean, the 3-in-1 creator ship was fantastic, so hopefully that went well for them, and they encourages them to come out with some more, right?
And then you've got a nice custom display down here as well.
So yeah, I did. Obviously, now that you saw Barracuda Bay right there, you know that I have 2 of them, one for the city and one for up here for display. So that obviously gave me the base as a leftover. I'm like, well, what am I going to do with this thing? So I needed an Imperial base for my soldiers, so I thought it'd be a good opportunity to do a custom base. So I also had the Lego chess set, the Pirates chess set. So I used all the Imperial guards from that to populate it with. So it worked out pretty well. I had that at the show as well. It was pretty fun. And so that's my most recent mock anyway.
And then we transition into a little bit of a different theme with the space stuff you've got on display.
Yeah, a little bit of shifting gears here, right, to NASA from Pirates, right? So these guys display pretty well right here, nowhere else to put them really. So I think these are fantastic sets. They come out with rockets and ISS and the shuttle as well. So at the moment, they populate this pretty well.
And you've got pretty limited real estate on these shelves in this room here, so do you switch stuff in and out frequently? Or?
Yes, very frequent. This used to be where I had all of the UCS Star Wars sets, and those moved upstairs to the studio. So what this ends up being is a very transient area for sets to come in and out of. What's probably not going to be very transient is the Titanic. That's my crown jewel right now. I absolutely love that set. So that's kind of front and center of the office. And of course below it we have the NES, and this blank spot next to it is supposed to be the Atari 2600, which I have slacked off and not got, but we'll get there eventually, right?
You've got a nice spot waiting for it.
It's got a nice spot waiting for it, right?
That Titanic looks so amazing there. That shelf is like the perfect length for it. You got
really
there,
well.
yeah.
I was a little nervous when I was bringing it downstairs. I'm like, okay, here we go. It worked out pretty well. It's almost as if it was made for the Titanic, right? So.
And then a couple of, you got some Technic there. We haven't seen a lot of Technic so far.
Not a lot of Technic, no. Those are usually downstairs with the cars, but that's a very awkward large set. But really fantastic helicopter. It's got a great working motor in it. Loud, of course, but it works. And then we have what is it called? The brick. No, it's not called why can't I think of the name of it?
I can't remember
why can't I think of the name of the darn ship?
Someone in the comments will know.
I'm sure they will. Yeah, and you're probably screaming it at us right now. But anyway, that one's too big to fit in the city, so that goes up here. And now you will notice, though, that I do have a Starship Enterprise right up there. And that is not Lego. That was, at the time, Mega Bloks. But I thought they did such a fantastic job with it. I couldn't help it. I had to get it. Because I'm a Trek nerd. I love Star Trek, man. I grew up with TNG. So I had to have that. So I wish Lego had that license. But that wouldn't be very fruitful for them to have that license. Obviously, Star Wars is where it's at, right? So.
For
Anyway.
most people, yes.
For most people, yeah. But, hey, we'll take it. But,
there
yeah,
you go.
That was fun.
And then just a nice variety on these shelves down here.
Yeah, just kind of odds and ends. Anything that kind of doesn't really fit or belong anywhere else ends up in here. Yeah.
The typewriter is a build I haven't actually done yet, but it does look fantastic on display there.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun to put together. A really different build, that's for sure.
Mm-hmm. Well, this looks great, and the shelving units work so well here, and I love the way you've got these displayed so nicely in the office.
Thanks. You got to tell my wife that, because when I was putting this all together, she's all nervous, like, you're going to put a lot of holes in my wall, which I did, but at the same time, when it looks pretty good when it's all filled out. And she also tells me that I made it too bright in here, but I did that on purpose for moments like this, where you need to actually see them when you're recording them. I was tired of pulling in my lights in here and recording, so I'm like, you know what? I'll just do that and solve the problem.
Yes.
So yeah.
So do you do a lot of video editing here at these computers, or what is this space used for?
Yeah, no, this is like kind of our general family computer right here, and yeah, do a lot of video editing, as you can imagine, with the YouTube channel. So having multiple screens does help. Absolutely, I'll take the extra real estate. And right here, I do work from home, so I work remotely. I do workforce management. It's a call center environment, and I run a small department that handles things like call volume forecasting, agent scheduling, reporting and payroll, all kinds of boring stuff.
Right, super exciting stuff.
Very exciting stuff, but it's a very dormant job. But so I sit here a lot of times, and I always kind of look at my Lego sets around me. It's great to be surrounded by Lego sets as you're working.
Right, or the other side of that though is how hard is it to sit there and actually get work done when you're surrounded by Lego all day and you know you've got the city in the basement.
Oh yeah, sometimes I do disappear downstairs. I'll go downstairs to grab something and then I don't come back up. You know, and my wife's like, "Honey, are you down there?" I'm like, "Yeah, I just went to go and get something, but ended up building something." So yeah, it's a vicious cycle, I'll tell you. Yeah, but it's a good thing. I like it.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't know if we can show a shot of the piano as well over there, so you can see.
Yeah.
In addition to this incredible looking piano, you've got the Lego model on top there, which is one of my favorite display Lego sets of all time. I think the grand piano set just looks so incredible on display like this, and when you've got an actual piano to display it with, it's even better.
Very elegant looking, right?
Yes.
So that was great because the wife actually encouraged me to get it. I was like, "Oh, right, this is great." She's actually encouraged me to go get a Lego set that's super expensive. You got it. Deal. I'll take care of that.
There
no
we
problem.
go, yes.
And she had a fun time building it with me, too. It was great. It was a family project, so it was a lot of fun.
Perfect. So that's the office space, and I think we've got a little bit more to look at still, right?
Yeah, we got the studio.
Awesome. So this is the studio room now, correct?
This
so
is the studio.
what all do you use this room for?
So this is where I do a lot of videos. So if we have any kind of Lego set review or we're doing an episode of Minifig Mayhem, we sit right here and we face the camera, and this is our backdrop, basically. It's kind of a fun thing to have behind us going on, these massive Star Wars sets. And these used to be down in the office, but I decided to graduate them up here to the upper level as a backdrop for the channel.
Yeah, and what an incredible collection of sets this is. A lot of Star Wars fans kind of must-have bucket list sets you've got on display.
Yes,
here.
there's some coveted sets in here, especially these two right here are one of the original UCS sets. I think this is, 2002, with the original old gray color in it as well. And of course, the Death Star too. But I remember when these things came out, it was just insane how big they were. It's like, I can't believe there's a Lego set that is that big and that expensive. And now it's like pretty commonplace to have something that expensive.
Yeah, it's incredible how common it is actually to have really high dollar sets released just all the time from Lego these days. But yeah, back like 2002, like you were saying with that set, I mean, that was extremely rare for something of that size to be released like that.
Yeah, it was. We weren't complaining. We were like, this is great. We like where this is going.
Yeah, I mean, that's been, I think, one really cool thing about the Star Wars theme in general is how it's pushed the envelope a lot with that and brought out so many of these incredible, massive sets, and I think shown to Lego that fans are willing to pay that, and that's how we get a lot of the idea sets and some of the bigger stuff we get now.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, it's been a lot of fun to collect these things. You can see I'm running out of space, and I need to build my sandcrawler. It's been there for, gosh, how long has it been there just looking at me like, dude, what's going on? You build me. But hopefully it fits in one of these cubbies. I don't know. It shouldn't be too crazy big, so hopefully it all works out. Now, some of these I did have to buy from Bricklink sellers. I know I had to buy this guy from a guy on Bricklink. He gave me a decent deal, I'll just say that. But other than that, they've come from directly from Lego. Try to keep up with them. This is the most recent one I put together. As you know, the AT-AT came out, and that was a pretty penny. But again, happy to have that in the collection. Right?
Yes. Are you like a completionist with any of these in terms of like the bigger Star Wars sets? You try to collect pretty much all of them?
I don't think it's possible to collect all of them. No, I've come to the sad realization that there's going to be a lot of them I'm just never going to have. Right? Yeah. And a lot of those are going to be the originals. I think there's like a Darth Maul sculpture that I'd love to have. There's also, I think it's Darth Vader's TIE Fighter or TIE Advance that I'll just never have because it's just ridiculously expensive, right? I got to take out a second mortgage to get these things. But no, I'm very happy with the collection, and I try to keep up with any of the new UCS sets that come out. But regardless, where am I going to put these things? It's just space is the eternal problem with Lego, I tell you. But no, it's been fun. Fun to keep these clean too. And I'll tell you what, whenever I need to put these things down and carry that down, it is a very nerve-wracking experience. But that's on one of those Wicked brick stands that does a very good job of displaying that on an angle. I'm really happy with that.
Fantastic. And like you said, this is your studio space, so you can see like the lights and the table here. So what is the setup typically like when you're shooting a video here?
I usually have the table a little more centered in here. The table, or I guess the camera would be in between these lights here. And so you have a bunch of lights on you, as you guys know. You got to be very well lit. And my wife's a good sport. She's been in these videos with me a lot more recently. So for Minifig Mayhem especially. But it's a lot of fun to actually be in front of the camera and be able to kind of have that face-to-face, so to speak, even though it's not live. But yeah, it's been a lot of fun having it up here, having a real dedicated space. Because before I would set up like a folding table downstairs somewhere and just build. So actually having a dedicated space in here has been great. It's a little tight, but luckily we don't have an extra kid that takes up the space. I'll tell you what though, when the kids do get older and they're out, that becomes instantly a Lego room. No problem with that.
You're looking forward.
So they can't move back in. I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Once they're out, the Lego's in.
They're gone. The Lego's in your room. Sorry, you're living out in the street, buddy. That's the way it is.
Space no longer available.
Exactly.
Do you ever do any live streams or kind of longer form content like that for any builds you're working on or that sort of thing?
I haven't done that quite yet. I've thought about doing live streams. I'm not brave enough to do that quite yet. I'm working up to that. We'll see how it goes. But for now, I do the recording and editing, posting, and all that stuff.
Yeah, there you go. So we obviously talked about the YouTube channel side of it a little bit more, but what else do you do online in terms of kind of your social media presence and the types of stuff people can kind of find from you?
Yeah, well, I do have an Instagram account. It's alex.u.nunes, so you can follow me there as well. And also I have a Facebook group that I've created recently, and it's just Alex's Lego Collection. Check it out. And it's not just my collection. Everybody from around the world can join and share their collections. And you don't have to be a fan of Lego. If you just like Lego and you don't have Lego yourself, check it out. There's a lot of great stuff out there. Just like going to a Lego show. There's a lot of great stuff to check out that people post from all around the world. It's pretty cool to see. The community all come together. There's a lot of crazy AFOLs out there that love Lego and love sharing their content, and that's a good way to look at it.
I love it. And speaking of conventions as well, I know you were at Brick Slopes. You had some of your great builds on display there. Do you have plans to go to any other Lego shows and maybe display anything, or just kind of sticking with the local area?
Well, at the moment, it started with the local. It was a lot of fun. Now there was a lot of announcements of other cons that are going on around. So you know what? I might have to do it. Kind of spread it out a little bit, right? Spread the love.
For sure. We'd love to see you come out to like our area. Like Brick World Chicago is an incredible show. I think a lot of people, I'm sure you've got fans all over the place who would love to meet you as well and see your builds in person.
It was great fun to see people walk up to me. It's like, hey, I know you, or Alex. I see you in your YouTube channel. It's great to meet you guys. It's fantastic. Obviously, you guys know my name. I don't know you. So it was great to get to know a lot of other fans that way as well.
Mm-hmm. No, that's one reason we love going to shows as well. It's great to actually meet people who watch, because otherwise you're just sitting in a room like this and just posting stuff online and you see analytics. Right, exactly.
Yeah, a lot of the reason why we do this is the interaction. It's a lot of fun to connect, and that's the reason why I did the YouTube channel originally, is because I found there's a lot of other Lego fans out there. I thought, oh my gosh, we're not alone. There's a lot of crazies out there that love collecting, right? And that's what's really fed the hobby and obviously the channel as well.
Yeah. Over the years that you've done YouTube and your own Lego City and everything, are there any other Lego related channels that you've watched, or like any other Lego cities that you've checked out? Because obviously you've got people like someone like Jang, who's kind of the OG and is like
right, the original, right.
A lot of different people that have popped up even more recent years that have cities and stuff. So
yeah. Absolutely. I'm aware of them, and I see some of their content, but I don't know hardcore into it. I try to focus on just my own stuff, my own style, and that's what's really cool about these other channels and other people that are creators, is that they have their own style. And I love that, how it's so unique. We all have our own way of doing things, our own style of building our cities or whatever the collection might be. So I like that uniqueness. So I try not to go too hard watching their content, because I don't want to be like guilty of stealing some ideas from other people. But man, there's some fantastic creators out there that do amazing work. It's really cool to see.
Yeah. No, there's so much awesome stuff, and like we said when you were down by the city, I can't wait to see what you have more of in the future as well. Too, right? And I'm sure you'll continue to add things in, customize, add more down there. And I love the studio space here. Looks great, the office and everything. So
thank you.
What a fantastic whole Lego horde you built up here.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, my wife is always shaking her head like, what have you done? But no, it's good. She's a good support, and obviously I couldn't do this without her support as well. And it's funny to see my kids grow up with this too, because they've grown up with Lego, this massive Lego city in their basement, and they're like, oh yeah, whatever, cool.
Spoiled.
A little spoiled, right? But when their friends come in, they're like, oh, what? This is your basement? What the heck, man? This is great, So it's good. It's fun to see that.
You mean not everyone has a massive Lego city in their basement?
Yeah. And I love having visitors over, because we have a lot of local people that are like, hey, could it be cool to come see your city? And I say, yeah, absolutely. If you're local, I'd like to have you come over. Just reach out to me. You can DM me on Instagram, and we can figure out a time for you to come and check out the city. It's great to have visitors, and great to have people check it out. It's always fun to see people's reaction when they first see it, because what I'm told is that the city looks a lot bigger in person than on the camera. I don't know if you guys can attest to that or not, but that's what I hear a lot. So you got to check it out in person.
There you go. Well, thank you so much. This has been great for everyone watching. If this is your first time seeing Alex's work and you haven't checked out his channel before, we'll have a link in the description to your channel for sure, and you can make sure to keep following him on YouTube and see some more of his incredible work in the future and all of his backlog of great videos as well. So hopefully we'll see you at some more conventions, but
Absolutely.
if not, definitely some more online. Keep up the great work.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thank you guys. It's great to have you over, and we'll hopefully see you again soon.